Botani Mawethu and welcome to the Sheds. My name is Nyaniso Jeko and I'm with Nkosana Lukocholo. Mwana Mhlekazi.
Mwana Mhlekazi, right?
And right, man.
I'm good, Mhlekazi.
Mhlekazi, I don't know how do I feel today because of the stature of the topic and the stature of the person we're hosting today.
Yes. The leadership.
The leadership, yes. The presence of greatness, once again. Today we're shedding light on African spirituality, on matters of indigenous importance. We're shedding light on indigenous wisdom. And to help us do that, we have Imboni, Utatu Dr. Uzwi-Lezwe Radebe. Molo dad.
Sanbona.
Yep.
My viewers eat.
Yes, you appeal dad.
I spawn. Yeah, spawn is appeal.
No, welcome to the Sheds, and we're delighted to have you. And we hope to extract a lot of knowledge on matters pertaining to African spirituality, indigenous knowledge, and businesses as well. And how do all of this come together, and how do you manage to do all of it? But before we go any further, let's get our viewers to know you better. Dr. Radebe is a spiritual guider who leads through revelations in Mhlekazi. So it's not just like there's a revelation that must come. And of that, I don't think there's anything that gets revealed to him. He's a founder and leader of the Revelation Spiritual Home, an African indigenous spiritual institution. They have 70 branches in and outside South Africa, like in Mozambique, in Botswana, in Lesotho, Zimbabwe, and even in the USA.
Wow.
So the footprint is quite spread there. A founder and chairperson of Uzwi-Lezwe Radebe Association, an African indigenous spiritual organization. He's also in business, Mhlekazi, and he's a founder and group chairman of Trillion Cut Investment. So the offices zakhona ngoku, Mhlekazi, a conglomerate with over 21 entities within 16 different sectors. 16 Mhlekazi.
Wow.
I'm sure you can't even sell apples alone. They're in 16 different sectors, built to empower people through a distribution network. Trillion Cut Investment has offices in Mozambique, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Eswatini, and Ireland. And they are an African Center of Excellence. This is very important, Mhlekazi. Imboni, Dr. Uzwi-Lezwe Radebe holds a PhD in philosophy and community development. Also has a qualification, Mhlekazi, in property development. Dada, this is a mouthful. This is a huge profile. And I think the first thing anybody would ask is to say, how does one man get involved in business, in African spirituality, in indigenous knowledge systems, and which is a powerhouse of a human being, if I may say?
Yeah, it's a good question, which abantu abaningi do ask, and I would say that the question for me really emerges from us as Africans losing our identity, especially our spiritual identity. Otherwise, if we did not lose it through colonization, I don't think today it makes about normal. Now, if you look at abantu ekuthiwa Imboni, city le office yobumboni, this spiritual gift called Imboni, in the indigenous spiritual context, they are like, if you go to other countries, labantu ababizwa like wise men, you know, because comparisons are Caesar to navigate since we have lost our own way. So ilabantu ekuthiwa wise men. So wise men, if you look today around the world, ngabantu whom people would go and seek wisdom from. Not academic wisdom, but spiritual wisdom. So ngabantu were all rounded. I'm just going to make to you a very, very quick example. I was invited SAPC on a topic about black consciousness. Other people said, well, lo ufunani, he talks about spirituality. You know, black consciousness is about black consciousness. You expect black consciousness people, you expect politicians, etc., etc. And I had to make abantu understand that African spirituality is a foundation and basis of everything in the African person. And therefore, if you talk African spirituality, from there, our cultures will emerge. It will give wisdom to culture, it will give wisdom to tradition. It will give wisdom to business. Everything that we approach, it should be approached under a foundation of African indigenous spirituality. A very quick example to understand that, unfortunately, now spirituality and religion are two things. I'll take you to the religion of Islam. That will give you a quicker, because Islam is a foundation of everything. Law yabo is based on Islam. Economy yabo is based on Islam. So in other words, in the Islam countries, whatever you will do, you first have to master Islam as a religion. Then you'll be able to navigate everything else. In Africa, we had to master spirituality, not religion. It was a foundation in ancient Africa. And that wisdom then gave you wisdom to navigate everything else. So yes, in nowadays, into esimangazayo. But in the olden days, it was not really like that. We had people like abafana nathi abazimboni. And by the way, this was another way to see who was genuine and who was not genuine. Because you can't fake these kinds of wisdom. And angithi kunesilungu banesisho bathini, a jack of all trades but master of none. Ila abantu abangena everywhere. Kodwa umuntu wakhona akamasterishi neyi-one. But abantu were spiritually gifted before. They were people who had vast wisdom for themselves and could advise anybody. Bebehamba namakhosi, Imboni ngabantu behamba namakhosi. And they advised amakhosi, the nation, on everything, on economics, on the culture, on the tradition, and they were consulted for that. So it's not a big issue with why am I in business? Why am I in that? And then let's fast forward to nowadays. Economically, we are challenged. So if we go back, his prophet Osika Kimbango, which I would urge you to go and look it up, he prophesied about Imboni. Because scholars, they say prophet, because scholars from Europe. But Imboni speaks of Imboni that will come and in later years to come. And he speaks what he will have political knowledge. He will have scientific knowledge. He speaks of these different knowledges. And when one looks at what I possess today, I possess all of those because of the times that we live in. We need a spiritual guide who will be knowledgeable in business, will be knowledgeable in this. And you speak about business. I employ a lot of people. Any business model is based on distribution model, meaning that we manufacture things. So we don't just manufacture, sifage imali yethu and then distribute ifage markup. No. We share the profits. That's the difference. So because of my business skills and knowledge, I'm able to provide food for and opportunities for people. So you see, this wisdom is not just for self-person, but it's wisdom that is benefiting abantu.
I wanted to find out about, I'm fascinated about your doctorate. Is it a PhD in philosophy and community development? How do you use that to empower people? Do you think our people need to know about development, their own development, and to drive it? How do you use it to help them?
As I've also mentioned before, of course, a spiritual guider, again, is not a religious leader, he's a spiritual guider, he's vast. He has to guide people in all aspects. Obviously, we have to also polish ourselves on the systems of the world. So academics is just systems of the world. So we need to polish ourselves and get to understand how certain things are done. That's where probably, doing further some studies, and so that I can come back and also equip people, community development, because I am a community builder as well. Just getting that knowledge, that is needed, and then to be able to advance it through the people, and then abantu are able now to equip themselves and become better people.
Okay, fascinating.
Looking at I was watching one of your videos where you were explaining the role of Imboni on kings, and that they would advise kings, people who were in charge at the time of the entire nation, and then the king would take the advice given to himself and use the advice to save the people, to guide the people whom they are leading. Would you say, looking at issues of governance today, are Imboni or yourself as Imboni, are you at all utilized by government, either by president, ministers, MECs, MMCs, councillors, anybody in the sphere of governance in order for that wisdom to help guide the people they are leading?
Yeah, to have me in your show for 30 minutes, 1 hour, that's very short. Because I like to give background so that there is context into the subject. So, must we back and say, ancient Africa and modern Africa is two different things. So ancient Africa, remember Yainjani, and that's who we were. We have lost our identity now. The Africa today, we are not what we were before. So that's point number one. We've lost the identity. So as you said, in ancient Africa, kings, they were like today or presidents or politicians. They were the leaders of society. But who now had to intervene in spiritual matters? There's a spiritual dimension. We believe it, we don't, there is. There's spiritual and physical. So the intermediary between the spiritual and the physical was people about his Imboni. Then they had to tell a king, you would look, the spiritual dimension is now not happy with 1, 2, 3. Or is that they are advising this and that and that. That is able to then tell the nation and the nation could move. Now in the modern Africa with politics, let's start with politics. The political system we have here, where does it emerge from? This is not our traditional political cultural system. We inherited it with colonization. Into mangase yakho khona la engathi yakushaya khona. We are now practicing Eurocentric politics. Point number one. Eurocentric politics don't as morning spiritual guidance and all those things. Actually, they acknowledge more religion than spirituality. Now you have your politicians who are guiding the nation. They are guiding the nation blindly because there's no spirituality or spiritual intervention here. They are guiding it through their own minds. And that is why now you can see we are not going anywhere. Another thing I want to tell you, because the viewer can look and say, well, listen, it does not matter. Today is today, asking any spiritual guidance will navigate our way. No, Africa is a mother continent. Spirituality began in Africa because life began in Africa.
Origin of humankind.
Yeah.
You know, you don't think you can be able to govern African people and ignore spirituality. Don't think that. And that's a mistake I think many politicians do. They compare us with your Western Wales. Western Wales, they emerged from here and they went there. They don't have much regard for spiritual matters. But Africa, you cannot, because Africa is a mother of spirituality. Kunalende city, kuneidalwa zomoya, who are watching over us. And they are not happy when you are trying to do things on your own. So this is one mistake that our politicians are doing. So to answer then your question, no, we are not utilized because of the system. So, you know, today it's all about politics. And politicians think that because they know how to do politics, although even themselves, I think they're still trying to navigate the politics because it's Eurocentric. But they don't regard spiritual matters, you know. They think if we can get land, if you look at the language of politicians today is economy. If we get our economy right, everything will be. No, it will never be right. Even if you can get the economy right, because it's beyond economy. I'll make a very quick example for you. I always tell people, it's amazing that before 94, here in South Africa, in particular, we said, no, yabona, masingaphatha sibuyele kuyoba right. My parliament now is mostly black. Got to ask yourself, England is so difficult. Have you ever asked yourself? And it's so difficult that it looks like you need a rocket scientist to solve our problems. It's not true. It's because it's beyond physicality, it's spirituality. And our leaders are not hearing the spiritual dimension. That's why we are being led astray. So yes, we are ignored. We are not being listened to.
It must be frustrating. And I just want to touch on one thing. Do you at some point get revelations that if the system could allow, you'd whisper in the ear of the president and say, beware of 1, 2, 3 ahead? Because I can imagine, if you sit and you get revelations about life in general, and as Imboni, would you get something that would come to you and you don't know what to do because maybe you don't have a direct line to the president or to the minister? What?
Yeah, okay. When colonization came, which we think as Africans, that's the biggest problem.
Yes.
Were we not warned? Strange enough, in media everywhere, nobody talks. Imboni zakudala, onongqawusa nobani. The prophecies are clear. They said, kunabantu abazakhe ubanje. Those kings in those days ignored them. So I'm just trying to go back to say the importance of that voice. Yes, you are correct. And I thank this modern technology and cameras because I've made many prophecies because there's a lot of fake things going out there. My prophecies are recorded. COVID, ngaiboniswa, It's clear daylight. It's there on the camera, the date, ingakafiki. Yes, we do get frustrated. Baba credo mutwa. Mage hamba emhlabeni. He cursed this country. I buried him. Mage hamba emhlabeni, he cursed. You know, he exactly what you were saying. He was frustrated. What in Katele, let this country go wherever it wants to go. Because he was despised. Besides the track record, you know, other people, and I think your viewers might be saying, what are we going to do with these fake prophets? Yes. Wherever there's original, there'll be fake. Yes. Where there's light, there'll be darkness. Where there's good, there'll be bad. We can't focus on the bad. Yes. Babu Mutwa proved this track record, proved these prophecies, yet they still ignored him. So, yes, I do get, because I'm a human.
I want to zoom in, because of time, I think. I want you to wear your business hat now. I think you were once quoted in one interview about South Africa as importing a lot of goods, and you know, we don't manufacture a lot of things. And I think you're very passionate about entrepreneurship, you know. Yeah. Where do you think we are going wrong, and how can we create jobs in this country?
Yeah, again, I speak of science. A rocket scientist must solve it. You never understand, you know. Although politics will always tell you at a political level, it's as if it's something we will never understand. It's manufacturing. Look, you can go back a few years ago. We go Boxback, Gupin, all these areas. There were factories there. There was smoke coming out. They are all closed, sold. You can't be a country that is always importing things. You need to manufacture, be in charge of your own economy. And manufacturing is one of the best ways to also create jobs on a large scale. We do manufacturing, by the way. Here we produce a lot of our own things. So we have lost it in manufacturing, and then we started to import things. Reason why, I don't know. Many things are from China. So because we stopped manufacturing, we lost the control of our economy. We lost the ability to create more jobs in the manufacturing space. That's why it's wrong. Bring back manufacturing. Manufacture. You'll have more jobs. You'll be in charge. You'll also yourself export things out of the country. That's what we have to do.
You speak of manufacturing, and you speak of a distribution network which in part shares the wealth with the people. A model which I think needs to be appreciated. But just briefly, how to get that right, and how to get the distribution network in such a way that it shares with those who are participants, and you go to a retail store and find your products, or you've got a special setup or established distribution network that helps share the profit?
Yeah, maybe I'll not be 100% detailed. It's my trade, secret trade secrets. But obviously, as I've mentioned, it's not much of a secret. It's because it's you must remember that business, there are ethics, and then there's also an element of greed. So if you remove the element of greed and you put correct ethics, which stems from the spirituality part, that's how I'm able to succeed, because I'm not focused too much on the profit, so I can share the profit. So that's how I get it right. And then obviously, after we have shared the profit, we do not put our products in the shelves. There are some we're looking to put in the shelves, but we minimize that. So we don't want competition with our distributors. A lot is done through our distributors, so that they are able to have more capacity in terms of making profits.
Okay, just a follow-up there, Dr. Hamni, speaking about that there's a lot of greed among other businesses that they're not sharing, and your model is different, you're focusing on sharing. Would you say, how would you look at the way business is set up in South Africa? Do you think there's that sharing of profits across the businesses in South Africa?
You see, we'll go back to spirituality. Remember, a king is born, a spiritual person is born, a politician is elected. A politician, to be good, he must have spiritual foundation. Without that, the politician will not be good. So if you look at Islam, which is religion, but is the model similar to spirituality, Islam's, upon their teachings, they are parts of not being greedy and sharing. So a lot of them, I go a lot to Arab countries, they do business. Okay. But Example, in the bank, they can't charge a lot of interest and those things. It's guided by their religion. And also part of sharing and giving, it's a must in their religion. That's why you see they take care of each other. So with us, we are taking models from Europe and nothing's guiding us in Africa. Big companies are coming here. They're not here to joke with you. They're not here to share with you. They don't care about you. They are from overseas. They are here to make money. They are capitalists, of course, and they are just going to charge profits. That's where we get it wrong. If we as Africans could go back to not religion, our spirituality, and we allowed it to inform everything, part of business, we would be running businesses with this kind of models that says, share with others, do not take too much profit, take care of other people. These are the things that we're supposed to implement in our systems that would have allowed us today to do what I'm doing and even more.
You say a politician must have spiritual guidance.
Yeah.
And that is important, even more important in this day and age. We have elections next year in 2024. What is your advice to the voters, to political parties, to independent candidates? Everybody will be contesting the space. What would you say?
Difficult question. Difficult based on the whole context I've given in South Africa. Because what guides us in South Africa? And if, let's be honest, if there are other politicians watching me there, but our politicians will first have to acknowledge we need to have an identity. And we need to have something that's going to guide us beyond academics and politics and economy. That's the first part. If they do, then the second part will be who's authentic. With track records and everything, okay, let's then get advice from there. That's what must be done. That's what is done in Islam countries, in Jewish countries. They follow people who have Judaism and rabbis. We can learn. Though those are religions, Tina, we need to follow spirituality. Then that's what we must do. Either than that, next year, we are going to be voting again. And we are going to be voting politicians who are going to go with their own brains and minds. And we are all going to be sitting and saying, well, Asaz with you, Abu Pimanj.
You have a huge following, Tata. Do you ever advise your people how to vote, who to vote, or not to vote at all? Just in 30 seconds.
No, don't do that, because I will be accused of maybe siding with one politics. But I do advise Abantu, Uguti, they need to choose leaders who will acknowledge our spirituality. That I do. That I do. But who to vote for and not, no, I don't do.
Just in few minutes, we just want to expand on the issue of the difference between spirituality and religion. What is the difference?
If I have to, it can be a bit longer.
Yes. Right.
Spirituality, it's what we were born with. You are spirit. So your communication with the spiritual dimension and spiritual matters, it's going to be a spiritual manner. Religion, it's man-made. Religion, it's like traditions of spirituality. So men knew spirituality, but men started to create what you call a system, a religious system about spirituality. Religion is not spirituality. They've created this system about spirituality. So that is the difference. Religion is man-made. It's something that is being created. It's a set of rules and traditions and beliefs. But spirituality is the actual living thing. It's like religion is not living. Spirituality is alive. The real communication and interaction and practice of spirituality. Religion is not practice of spirituality. Religion is a set of traditions, rules, and thoughts about spirituality.
That was Imboni Dr. Uzwi-Lezwe Radebe sharing his knowledge, expertise, experience on matters pertaining spirituality, African indigenous knowledge system, and businesses. Thank you very much. This has been another episode of The Sheds. Keep watching.